Commander Jack Winters stared at the bright screen in front of him. His blue eyes reflected the red warning lights that flashed across the display. The alien ships looked like sharp diamonds as they broke through Earth's last line of defense. His hands gripped the edge of the metal table until his knuckles turned white. "Sir, we've lost contact with the Pacific Defense Grid," said Lieutenant Olivia Martinez. Her voice stayed calm even as people ran back and forth in the underground. Shelter. The bunker walls shook as another bomb hit the city above them. Jack nodded slowly. "How many ships made it through?" "Too many to count, sir." Olivia looked down at her tablet. "Reports are coming in from all major cities. New York, London, Beijing, Moscow. They're all under attack. The United Earth Defense Force had been fighting the Zendari for 3 years now. The aliens had first appeared near Jupiter, their fleet seeming to blink into existence from nowhere. They sent no messages, made no demands. They simply began to advance toward Earth. Humanity united as never before. Old enemies became allies overnight as the world's nations pooled their resources and technology. But it wasn't enough. The Zendari, weapons cut through Earth's best shields like they weren't even there. Jack moved to the main viewing screen where a live feed showed the smoking ruins of Denver. The once proud city now lay in pieces. Tall buildings had been reduced to piles of concrete and twisted metal. The alien ships hovered above, their crystalline surfaces reflecting the fires below. "Commander," called out Communications Officer Peter Garcia, "we're receiving an emergency broadcast from Admiral Blackwood." The main screen flickered, and the tired face of Susan Blackwood appeared. Her gray hair was tied back in a tight bun, and a fresh cut ran across her forehead. "All remaining military personnel," she said, her voice crackling through static. "This is not a surrender. This is a tactical retreat. Protocol Exodus is now in effect. I repeat, Protocol Exodus is now in effect." A heavy silence fell over the bunker. Everyone knew what Protocol Exodus meant. It was the plan they hoped would never be needed. The evacuation of key military and scientific personnel to the colony on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. It meant they were abandoning Earth. "Sir?" Olivia's voice broke the silence. "Your orders?" Jack took a deep breath. "Sound the evacuation alarm. We have 30 minutes to get our people to the launch bay." The next half hour passed in a blur of activity. The bunker held 200 of Earth's best minds, scientists, engineers, soldiers. Each had been chosen months ago as part of Protocol Exodus, though many had hoped the day would never come. Jack moved through the chaos, helping people gather essential equipment and data cores. The ground continued to shake with each new bombing run. "Commander," called Dr. Frank Miller, the lead scientist of Project Firewall, "we need to take the samples." Jack followed the scientist to his lab where several containers sat in a special cooling unit. Inside each one were biological samples, the results of 3 years of studying the Zendari. "These might be our only hope of understanding their weaknesses," Frank said as he carefully packed the containers. A massive explosion rocked the bunker, sending both men crashing to the floor. The lights flickered off, then the emergency power kicked in, bathing everything in a dim red glow. "That was too close," Jack said, helping Frank to his feet. "We need to move now." They rushed to the launch bay where 3 transport ships waited. Most of the bunker personnel were already loaded with only a few stragglers still boarding. "Commander," called Olivia from the entrance of the middle ship, "we've saved you a seat." Jack turned to take one last look at the bunker that had been his home for the past year. Another explosion hit, closer this time. Dust and small pieces of concrete rained down from the ceiling. "Sir, we need to go now," Olivia shouted. Jack nodded and ran for the ship. As soon as he was aboard, the doors sealed shut. He made his way to the cockpit where Captain Lisa Brown was preparing for launch. "Everyone's aboard," Jack told her. "Get us out of here." Lisa nodded. "Opening launch doors now. Hold on tight." The ceiling of the launch bay split open, revealing the night sky above. It was filled with the flashing lights of battle. Earth's last fighters engaging the Zendari ships. "Launch in 3, 2, 1. Lisa pushed the throttle forward, and the ship shot upward. The G-forces pushed Jack back into his seat as they climbed higher and higher. Through the viewport, he watched as Denver grew smaller below them. Fires burned throughout the city, and the gleaming shapes of alien ships moved like predators among the ruins. "Stealth systems engaged," Lisa reported. "Setting course for the Europa jump point." A warning light flashed on the console. "We've been spotted," she said, her voice tight. "2 Zendari fighters on our tail." Jack moved to the weapons station. "I've got them." He locked onto the approaching fighters and fired the ship's rear cannons. The energy beam struck one of the alien ships, causing it to spin out of control. The second fighter dodged and returned. Fire. The transport shook as the alien weapon grazed their hull. Warning alarms blared throughout the ship. "Damage report," Jack called. "Hull breach in the cargo section," Olivia reported from her station. "Sealing it now. Engines still at full power." "We're approaching the upper atmosphere," Lisa said. "Hang on, this might get rough." The ship shuddered violently as they pushed through the last layers of Earth's atmosphere into the cold darkness of space. The pursuing Zendari fighter continued to gain on them. "I can't shake him," Lisa said through gritted teeth. Just then, a human fighter swooped in from above, firing repeatedly at the alien ship. The Zendari fighter exploded in a shower of crystalline fragments. "This is Captain Eric Daniels of the EDF Valiant," came a voice over the comm. "I'll cover your escape. Get those people to Europa." "Thank you, Valiant," Jack replied. "We won't. Forget this. Just make sure it's worth it," Eric said. His fighter turned back toward Earth, where dozens more alien ships were rising through the atmosphere. As they accelerated away from Earth, Jack looked back at the blue planet that had been humanity's only home for thousands of years. From this distance, it still looked peaceful, with only small flashes of light hinting at the destruction taking place on the surface. "We'll be back," he whispered. "This isn't over." Lisa engaged the jump drive, and the stars around them stretched into lines as the ship accelerated to faster than light speed. Earth disappeared from view, and with it the first chapter of the war. What lay ahead at Europa was uncertain, but one thing was clear: humanity would not go quietly. In the darkness of space, the transport ship carrying the seeds of Earth's resistance sped toward Jupiter and the small moon that would become humanity's last stand. 6 months had passed since the fall of Earth. Europa base had become home to the 30,000 survivors who had escaped the Zendari invasion. The base was never meant to hold so many people. Narrow hallways were packed with makeshift beds. Food was rationed. Clean water was precious. But they were alive. Dr. Alan Reeves had not slept more than 4 hours at a time since their arrival. His lab was small, just a converted storage room with equipment brought from Earth. The lights buzzed above him as he studied the samples through his microscope. The door slid open, and Colonel Kate Foster walked in. Her uniform was worn at the bottom edges but still neat. Dark circles under her eyes showed her exhaustion. "Any progress?" she asked, looking over his shoulder. Alan rubbed his tired eyes. "Yes. Finally, yes." He motioned her closer to a screen on the wall. "Look at this." The screen showed cells reacting to a green substance. Most of the cells broke apart, but a few remained whole. "What am I looking at?" Kate asked. "Human blood, cells exposed to the Zendari bioweapon, the same weapon that killed millions on Earth." Alan pointed to the cells that remained intact. "These cells are from Sergeant Ryan Adams. They don't die when exposed to the toxin." Kate's eyes widened. "He's immune?" "Not exactly immune. His cells have a unique protein that breaks down the toxin." Alan switched to another image. "I found 23 people on the base with similar genetic markers. Some have stronger resistance than others." "Can we use this to make a cure? Something to protect everyone?" Kate asked, hope rising in her voice. Alan shook his head. "Not a cure. Something better." He pulled up another file on the screen. It showed a human silhouette with highlighted areas. "We can enhance these people, change their bodies to not just resist the toxin but use it. Maybe even turn it against the Zendari." Kate stared at the screen. "You're talking about creating super soldiers. I'm talking about giving humanity a fighting chance." Alan's voice was firm. "The Zendari never accounted for this genetic variation. It could be their first mistake. Kate was quiet for a long moment. Who are the 23? Alan handed her a tablet. I've compiled their files. Different backgrounds, different skills. The only thing they have in common is this genetic marker. Kate scrolled through the list. Ryan Adams was a civilian pilot before the invasion. Samantha Wells was a marine biologist. Greg Mason was a special forces operative. Have you spoken to any of them yet? She asked. No. I wanted your approval first. The enhancement process. Alan hesitated. It won't be easy for them. There will be pain, and we can't be sure everyone will survive. Kate's face hardened. The alternative is extinction. Gather them all in the main hall at 800 tomorrow. I'll explain the situation myself. The next morning, 23 confused people sat in the main hall. Some wore civilian clothes, others military uniforms. They whispered among themselves, wondering why they had been summoned. Colonel Foster walked onto the small stage. The room fell silent. 6 months ago, we fled from Earth, she began. Since then, we've been hiding, surviving. That changes today. She looked at each face in the crowd. Dr. Reeves has discovered something in your blood. Something that makes you special. She explained the discovery in simple terms. How their bodies had a natural defense against the alien toxin. How this could be enhanced. I won't lie to you. She continued. The enhancement process will be painful. Some of you may not survive. But those who do will become humanity's best hope. Our fiercest warriors. Ryan Adams stood up. He was tall with broad shoulders and short brown hair. You're asking us to be guinea pigs? I'm asking you to be heroes, Kate replied. This is voluntary. No one will force you. Samantha Wells spoke next. She was slim with dark skin and determined eyes. Will it help us take back Earth? If it works, yes, Kate said. You'll be able to fight the Zendari on equal terms. One by one, they asked questions. What would the enhancements do? How long would the process take? Would they still be human afterward? Alan answered as honestly as he could. The enhancements would make them stronger, faster. Their bodies would be able to neutralize Zendari toxins. The process would take weeks. And yes, they would still be human, but changed. Greg Mason, a muscular man with a scar across his chin, had been silent until now. I've lost my wife, my daughter, and my home to these aliens. If there's even a small chance this will help us, fight back, I'm in. A murmur ran through the group. Heads nodded in agreement. When do we start? Greg asked. 3 days later, the first phase began. The 23 volunteers were moved to a sealed section of the base. Special beds were set up, connected to machines that would inject the enhancement serum directly into their bloodstreams. The first injection will be the worst, Alan explained as they prepared. Your body will fight against the changes. It will feel like you're burning from the inside. Ryan Adams lay on one of the beds, his arm connected to the injection machine. Will we be awake for all of it? Yes, Alan said. We tried sedatives in the lab tests, but they interfered with the process. I'm sorry. Samantha Wells took a deep breath on her bed. For Earth, she said. The others repeated after her, a small ritual to steel themselves for what was coming. For Earth, Alan nodded to his team. Begin the process. The machines hummed as the serum flowed into their veins. For a few moments, nothing happened. Then Ryan gasped, his back arching off the bed. One by one, the others began to react. Some screamed. Some bit down on mouthguards to stay silent. All of them suffered. Colonel Foster watched from behind a glass window. How long will this phase last? She asked Alan. 12 hours for the first injection. Then they'll have 8 hours to rest before the next one. His face was grim. There will be 5 injections total. Kate nodded. And if they survive? Then we begin training them to use their new abilities. Alan looked through the glass at the suffering volunteers. And we prepare for Operation Firebrand. That night, 7 of the volunteers died. Their bodies rejected the enhancements. shutting down one system at a time. The medical team worked frantically to save them, but it was too late. The 16 who survived woke to a new reality. Their bodies felt different, stronger. When Ryan Adams squeezed his hand into a fist, the metal rail of his bed bent. Samantha Wells found she could hear conversations from rooms away. As they recovered between injections, they formed a bond. They were no longer just survivors. They were becoming something new. Earth's last hope. The firebrand soldiers. And on the other side of the solar system, the Zendari continued their systematic destruction of Earth, unaware that humanity was about to change the rules of the war. The training facility on Titan was cold and dark. Saturn's largest moon offered the perfect place to prepare the firebrand soldiers. Its heavy gravity and thick atmosphere helped push their enhanced bodies to new limits. Greg Mason ran around the track for the 50th time. His lungs did not burn. His legs did not ache. The changes to his body had made him stronger than any normal human. He could run for hours without stopping. "Faster," called Dr. Alan Reeves through the speaker system. "You need to be faster." Greg pushed himself harder. The world around him seemed to slow down as he moved. His feet barely touched the ground between steps. To anyone watching, he looked like a blur. In another part of the facility, Samantha Wells practiced with her new abilities. She stood in a room filled with containers of Zendari toxin. The green gas swirled around her, touching her skin. Instead of burning her, it was absorbed into her body. She could feel it strengthening her. "Focus on pushing it out through your hands," instructed Colonel Kate Foster from behind a protective shield, directed at the target. Samantha closed her eyes. She felt the toxin moving through her body, following her commands. She raised her hands toward a metal target and pushed. Green energy shot from her palms, melting the metal on contact. Ryan Adams worked in the weapons room. His enhanced reflexes allowed him to assemble and disassemble guns at impossible speeds. He could throw a knife and hit a target 100 yards away. His eyes could see details normal humans would miss. "Your reaction time is twice as fast as yesterday," said the training officer. "Whatever they did to you, it's still changing you." The 16 firebrand soldiers trained for 3 months on Titan. Each day they grew stronger. Each day they learned more about their new abilities. But they also learned the cost of these changes. At night, many of them still screamed in pain as their bodies continued to adapt. Some had nightmares about the friends who had died during the enhancement process. Others worried they were becoming more alien than human. One evening, Greg found Ryan sitting alone in the dining hall. The room was empty except for them. "Can't sleep?" Greg asked, sitting across from him. Ryan shook his head. "Every time I close my eyes, I see Earth burning." Greg nodded. He understood. They all carried those memories. "We'll get it back." "Will we?" Ryan looked at his hands. They were the same hands he had always had, but now they could bend steel. "Sometimes I wonder what we're becoming. If we'll still be human when this is over." "We're still human," Greg said firmly, "as long as we remember what we're fighting for." The next day, Admiral Susan Blackwood arrived from Europa Base. All 16 firebrand soldiers stood at attention as she entered the training facility. Her uniform was crisp, her face serious. "At ease," she said. The soldiers relaxed slightly. "I've read the reports about your progress. I'm impressed. But now it's time to put your training to use." She activated a holographic display in the center of the room. It showed a red planet, Mars. The Zendari have established their forward operating base here on Phobos. The image zoomed in to show Mars's small moon. "It's from this base that they coordinate their attacks on our remaining outposts in the asteroid belt." The soldiers studied the image. They could see the alien structures covering the moon's surface. Crystal towers reached toward space. Strange, organic-looking buildings pulsed with energy. "Your mission," continued Admiral Blackwood, "is to infiltrate this base and disable their biological transmitter." She pointed to a large structure in the center of the base. "This is how they coordinate their fleet. If we can shut it down, Even temporarily, we can launch a counterattack. Samantha stepped forward. How do we get there and how do we shut it down? The USS Defiance will take you, Blackwood replied. It's our last stealth carrier. As for shutting down the transmitter, Dr. Reeves has developed a disruptor that should work. But someone will need to plant it directly on the transmitter core. Suicide mission, Greg said quietly. Blackwood didn't deny it. The chances of all of you returning are low, but this mission could change the course of the war. The room was silent as the soldiers considered this. They had known from the beginning that they might die. They had accepted that risk when they volunteered for the Firebrand project. Ryan looked around at his fellow soldiers. When do we leave? Tomorrow at 600, Blackwood answered. Get some rest, you'll need it. That night, the 16 Firebrand soldiers prepared in their own ways. Some cleaned their weapons, some meditated. Others wrote messages for friends they might never see again. Greg found Samantha in the lab, studying the disruptor device she would carry. Ready for tomorrow? He asked. She didn't look up. Just making sure I understand how this works. If I'm going to die planting it, I want to make sure it actually works. Greg put a hand on her shoulder. We're all coming back. Samantha finally looked at him. You don't believe that? No, he admitted. But I believe we'll succeed, and that's what matters. The next morning, they boarded the USS Defiance. The ship was small compared to the carriers Earth once had, but it was fast and nearly invisible to Zendari sensors. Captain Joe Warren greeted them at the airlock. Welcome aboard. We'll reach Phobos in 6 hours. Better strap in. We'll be pushing the engines hard to avoid detection. The journey was tense. The soldiers checked their gear repeatedly. They reviewed the plan, looking for any weaknesses. There were many, but they had no choice but to proceed. As they approached Mars, the red planet filled the viewports. Phobos was just a small dot growing larger as they neared. Entering stealth mode, announced Captain Warren. From here on, total silence. The ship's lights dimmed. The engines quieted to a soft hum. They glided toward Phobos, using the gravity of Mars to hide their approach. Greg gathered his team for one final briefing. We'll split into 3 groups. Team 1 will create a diversion on the far side of the base. Team 2 will secure our escape route. Team 3 will plant the disruptor. Ryan would lead Team 1. Samantha would lead Team 3 carrying the disruptor. Greg would lead Team 2. Remember your training, Greg told them. Move fast, stay focused, don't engage unless necessary. Our goal is to plant the disruptor and get out. The ship shuddered slightly as it landed on the dark side of Phobos away from the alien base. We've got a 30-minute window before they detect us, said Captain Warren. After that, you're on your own. Greg nodded. That's all we need. He turned to his soldiers. Helmets on, weapons ready. For Earth. For Earth, they repeated. The airlock opened and the 16 Firebrand soldiers stepped onto the surface of Phobos. The small moon's low gravity made their enhanced bodies feel even lighter. Above them, Mars hung in the sky like a giant red eye watching their every move. Ahead, the crystalline towers of the Zendari base glowed with an eerie blue light. It was time to show the aliens that humanity would not go quietly into extinction. It was time for Operation Firebrand. The 16 Firebrand soldiers moved silently across the dusty surface of Phobos. They stayed low, using the moon's many craters for cover. The Zendari base grew larger as they approached. Its crystal towers reached up like sharp fingers trying to grab the stars. Greg signaled for the team to stop. They gathered in the shadow of a large rock. This is where we split up, he said through their helmet comms. Ryan, take your team to the east side. Create as much noise as you can in 30 minutes. Samantha, your team waits until then to approach the central tower. My team will secure the path back to the ship. Ryan nodded. His team of 5 checked their weapons one last time. See you at the ship, he said. Then they were gone, moving so fast they were just blurs against the dark surface. Samantha and her 4 soldiers moved into position behind a ridge that gave them a clear view of the central tower. The disruptor device was secured to her back. It wasn't heavy, but she could feel its importance weighing on her. Greg led his team to set up a defensive line between the base and their ship. If anything went wrong, they would be the last line of protection for their escape. For 20 minutes, everything was quiet. Then the night lit up with explosions on the east side of the base. Ryan's team had begun their attack. "That's our cue," Samantha said to her team. "Move out." They sprinted toward the central tower. Their enhanced bodies moved faster than any normal human could see. Guards ran past them, heading toward the explosions, not even noticing the 5 soldiers slipping by. The entrance to the tower was protected by 2 Zendari warriors. They were tall, with bodies that seemed to be partly made of crystal. Their arms ended in sharp blade-like points. "I'll take them," said Private Ethan Rivera, the youngest of the firebrand soldiers. Before anyone could stop him, he ran forward. The Zendari saw him coming. They raised their blade arms, ready to strike. But Ethan was too fast. He ducked under the first swing and punched upward. His enhanced strength sent the alien flying, backward. The second alien slashed at him, cutting through his suit, but instead of blood, green energy sparked at the wound. Ethan grabbed the alien's arm and twisted. The crystalline limb shattered. "Clear," Ethan called. The wound on his chest was already healing, his modified body absorbing the Zendari toxin and using it to repair the damage. Samantha led her team into the tower.
Inside, they found strange organic walls that pulsed with blue light. The floor was made of the same crystal material as the outside of the tower. "The transmitter should be at the center," Samantha said. "Let's move." They encountered more guards.
As they moved deeper into the tower, each time they fought quickly and efficiently, using their enhanced abilities to overcome the aliens. But they also took losses. One of their team fell when 3 aliens attacked at once. Another was trapped when a section of the organic wall closed around him. On the east side of the base, Ryan's diversion was working. His team had set charges on several smaller buildings, drawing most of the Zendari forces to them. They fought in a wild dance of speed and strength, their modified bodies moving too fast for the aliens to track. "Keep them busy for another 10 minutes, Ryan ordered as he snapped the neck of an alien twice his size. "Samantha needs more time." But the Zendari were adapting. They began to predict the humans' movements, setting traps instead of fighting directly. 2 more of Ryan's team fell to these traps, caught in nets of crystalline energy that drained their strength. Back at the tower, Samantha and Ethan were the only ones left of their team. They fought their way to the central chamber where the biological transmitter pulsed with energy. It was a massive organ-like structure with veins of blue light running through it. "Cover me," Samantha said as she pulled the disruptor from her back. "I need 3 minutes to plant this properly." Ethan took up position at the entrance to the chamber. Outside, they could hear more aliens approaching. Samantha worked quickly, attaching the disruptor to the pulsing heart of the transmitter. The device began to sync with the alien technology, its lights changing from green to blue. "Hurry," Ethan called as he fired his weapon at the approaching aliens. "We're about to have company." Just as Samantha finished setting the disruptor, a massive alien entered the chamber. It was different from the others, nearly 12 feet tall, with multiple arms and a body that glowed with internal light. An overseer. Ethan turned his weapon on it, but the shot seemed to do nothing. The overseer moved with surprising speed, grabbing Ethan and lifting him off the ground. "Run!" Ethan shouted to Samantha. "Get out of here!" But Samantha didn't run. She had completed her mission, but she wouldn't leave Ethan behind. She reached deep inside herself, feeling the Zendari toxin that her body had absorbed over months of training. With a scream, she released it all at once. Green energy exploded from her, filling the chamber. The overseer dropped Ethan, its body convulsing as the toxin it used as a weapon was turned against it. Samantha collapsed to her knees, drained but still conscious. Ethan crawled to her side. "We need to go. The disruptor will activate soon." They staggered out of the chamber, supporting each other. All around them, the tower was beginning to shake as the disruptor interfered with the biological systems of the base. Outside, the battle continued. Ryan had lost all but one of his team, They were surrounded, fighting back-to-back against a circle of aliens. Just as it seemed they would be overwhelmed, the tower behind them pulsed with energy. A wave of disruption spread outward. The effect on the Zendari was immediate. They stumbled, their movements becoming uncoordinated. The crystal parts of their bodies dulled, losing their glow. The hive mind that connected them was broken. It worked, Ryan said in disbelief. It actually worked. Greg's voice came through their comms. All teams, fall back to the ship now. The disruption won't last long. The surviving Firebrand soldiers fought their way back to the landing site. Of the 16 who had landed on Phobos, only 9 made it back to the USS Defiance. Samantha and Ethan were the last to arrive, still supporting each other. As the ship lifted off, they watched through the viewport. All across Phobos, the Zendari structures were losing their glow, their coordination broken by the disruptor. Captain Warren's voice came over the ship's comm system. Admiral Blackwood reports that the entire Zendari fleet has been affected. They're scattered and disorganized. Our ships are moving in to attack. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity had struck a real blow against the invaders. The Firebrand soldiers had changed the course of the war. As the USS Defiance sped away from Mars, Greg opened a channel to Europa base. "This is Firebrand Actual," he reported. "Phase 1 complete. The enemy is vulnerable. Commencing Phase 2. Samantha looked at the faces of her surviving comrades. They were tired and injured, but there was something new in their eyes. Something that had been missing for too long. Hope. The war was far from over, but the tide was turning. Humanity had found its strength, and the Zendari were about to learn just how fierce Earth's warriors could be when fighting for their home. 1 year had passed since Operation Firebrand. The successful mission to Phobos had changed everything. With the Zendari communication network disrupted, humanity had seized its chance to fight back. Admiral Susan Blackwood stood before the United Earth Council on Europa. Her uniform was cleaner now, with new medals pinned to her chest. The dark circles under her eyes were still there, but there was something else in her gaze now. Pride. "The Firebrand soldiers have exceeded all our expectations," she told the 12 council members. In the past year, they have led operations across the solar system, pushing the Zendari back wherever they go. On the large screen behind her, images appeared. The liberation of the Mars colonies, the destruction of Zendari mining operations on Mercury, the recapture of the lunar base. "Most importantly," Blackwood continued, "we have established contact with resistance cells still fighting on Earth. The Firebrand soldiers have been transported to key locations around the globe to lead these resistance fighters." The screen showed new images. Greg Mason leading a group of soldiers through the ruins of London. Samantha Wells and her team taking down a Zendari patrol in the jungles of Brazil. Ryan Adams standing on top of a destroyed alien ship in what was once Chicago. "We are reclaiming our home piece by piece," Blackwood said. "Cities are being liberated one by one. The Zendari no longer have total control of Earth." Council Chairwoman Linda Bishop leaned forward. "What about civilian casualties? How are our people surviving on Earth?" "Better than we feared," Blackwood replied. "The Zendari never intended to wipe out all humans. They wanted Earth's resources, not its complete destruction. Many people survived in underground shelters or remote areas. Now they're coming out to join the fight." The council members talked among themselves, impressed by the progress. But one member, Dr. Paul Chen, raised his hand. "What about the Firebrand soldiers themselves?" Dr. Reeves reported some concerning developments in their physiology. Blackwood nodded to someone at the back of the room. Dr. Alan Reeves walked forward, looking older than his 50 years. The stress of the past 18 months had turned his hair completely gray. "Yes, there have been changes beyond what we initially predicted," Reeves admitted. "The Firebrand soldiers continue to evolve. Their bodies are still adapting to the enhancements we gave them." He displayed new medical scans on the screen. "Their cellular structure is increasingly able to absorb and redirect Zendari energy. Some can even temporarily take on properties of the crystalline material that makes up the aliens' technology." "Are they still human?" Dr. Chen asked directly. Reeves looked uncomfortable. Genetically, yes. But they are becoming something new, something beyond what we would consider normal human. And is this change spreading? Chen pressed. Can they pass these traits to others? That's the most remarkable discovery, Reeves said. These modifications appear to be hereditary. Children born to firebrand soldiers will naturally carry these enhancements without needing the painful procedures the first generation endured. The council chamber fell silent as everyone considered the implications. Humanity wasn't just fighting back. It was evolving in response to the threat. On Earth, Commander Jack Winters stood in the rain, looking at the ruins of Seattle. The space. Needle was broken in half but still recognizable. Around him, people worked to clear debris and set up new shelters. Some were soldiers, but most were civilians, eager to rebuild what had been lost. Jack had returned to Earth 3 months ago, landing with the second wave of Europa forces after the firebrand soldiers had secured several beachheads around the world. His job was to coordinate between military operations and civilian rebuilding efforts. A group of children ran past him, laughing as they splashed through puddles. One boy stopped and saluted Jack before running after his friends. Despite everything, life was returning to Earth. Jack's communication device beeped. He tapped his earpiece. Winters here. Jack, it's Greg. Greg Mason's voice came through clearly. We've secured the alien command post in Vancouver. You need to see what we found. 2 hours later, Jack stood inside a captured Zendari ship. The interior was strange, a mix of crystal technology and organic material. Greg led him to what appeared to be the control center. Most of their data systems were destroyed before we could capture them, Greg explained. But Samantha was able to extract some files. That's why I called you. Samantha Wells stood beside a crystal console, her hands glowing slightly as she interfaced with the alien technology. Another sign of how the firebrand soldiers continued to change. It took some time to translate, she said without looking up. But I managed to access their long-range communications. The Zendari sent messages back to their home system. What did they say? Jack asked. Samantha finally looked at him. Her eyes had a faint glow to them now. They were calling for help. This invasion force, they're just scouts. The main fleet is still out there. Jack felt his stomach drop. How many? Thousands of ships, Greg said quietly. Maybe tens of thousands. A force that makes what we've been fighting look like nothing. How long do we have? Samantha turned back to the console. Based on the communications, 3 years. Maybe 4. They're far away. But they're coming. Jack took a deep breath. After everything they had suffered, everything they had fought for, it seemed the real war hadn't even begun. We should tell Admiral Blackwood, he said. The Council needs to know. Already did, Greg replied. But I wanted you to hear it from us. You were there at the beginning. You deserve to know the truth. Jack walked to a viewport that looked out over the ruined city. The rain had stopped and sunlight was breaking through the clouds. Despite the devastation, green plants were growing among the ruins. Earth was healing itself just as humanity was. 3 years, Jack said. That's enough time. Enough time for what? Samantha asked. To prepare, to rebuild, to make more firebrand soldiers. Jack turned back to them, determination in his eyes. We're not the same people they attacked 4 years ago. We're stronger now. We know how to fight them. Greg nodded. And the next generation will be even stronger. My son was born last month. The doctors say he already shows the enhanced genetic markers. Jack hadn't known Greg had a child. It was a reminder that life continued, even in war. What's his name? Hope, Greg said with a small smile. Seemed appropriate. Jack's communication device beeped again. It was Admiral Blackwood. Commander, she said when he answered. I've just briefed the Council on the new information. They've approved Project Phoenix. We're expanding the Firebrand program. I want you to lead it. Jack looked at Greg and Samantha, the first of Earth's new defenders. They had changed the course of the war once. They would do it again. I accept, Jack said. When do we start? Immediately, Blackwood replied. The real fight is just beginning. As the sun broke through the clouds over the ruins of Earth, Jack Winters smiled. The war wasn't over, but for the first time, he truly believed humanity would win. When all had seemed lost, humanity's fiercest warriors had changed the outcome, and they would do it again. They would be ready when the main fleet arrived. Earth would not fall again.